when I decided to get good at public speaking, there was one obstacle I kept running into and I didn't know how to get through it. So I'm going to share with you today what to do and how to go about it. The problem was I would spend all this time preparing my presentation. I would type the entire thing up. I would spend hours, maybe 10 plus hours putting together a 1 hour speech. And in that process, I would make the order of the presentation just so I'd select the right words for the right stories, and I'd spend so much time in this reflective, creative space. And when it came to delivering the presentation, I really had no recollection of what I had written. So there would be this whole other piece of the process where I would go from this written, 6 page, single spaced, wonderful presentation to now I got to learn it. Now I got to figure out what I just wrote, what I just spent 10 plus hours on. I have to now figure out how to get it into my bones, how to get it into my speech so that I could deliver it. And what I was doing was memorizing. I was spending a great deal of time trying to figure out how I was going to remember that speech. So I would speak it over and over and over. And maybe this is you. And we learn this early on in school. So, this is one of the things that I'm trying to teach people. This is not how you prepare for a presentation, because it what it does is it makes you feel like there is a right way to deliver this speech. And if I don't do it the right way or the way that I plan to, that it's a fail. And it gives you very little room to wiggle, to make mistakes, to flex in the moment and dance with that audience. So once you get that presentation all written and you're trying to memorize aspects of it, what happens is your brain starts a groove from A to B. It's a one neural pathway for that speech. You do it over and over and over, and that groove gets a little deeper and deeper each time. So maybe you do memorize it. I have memorized entire 1 hour presentations thinking that this is how it's done. And I felt confident going into the presentation because I could recite it by memory in front of my bathroom mirror. But when it got to the actual game day, presentation day, the faces staring back at me, the audience being in front of me was enough to shake me and get me off track. That neural pathway I had created, I was off track within the first 5 minutes and I could not recover. I couldn't figure out how to get back to my speech, so I had to in one instance, I actually started over from the very beginning, and it was humiliating. I wanted to just bolt out of that room, but I instead just spoke the presentation from memory as fast as I could, and I got out of there. This is not what I would teach today. This is not how I would recommend anybody do a presentation. I'm smiling because I have so much compassion for that younger self, the younger me that was doing the best I could. I didn't know, I didn't have any other tools. So what I do today, I'll just take you on this little journey. What I do today for a presentation is I will do a brain dump. I will write it all out. And when I say write, I could be writing with pencil on a piece of paper, or I could be typing it up, but really I'm just getting my thoughts out and on to something that I can see. Now, as soon as I write this out, maybe it's a story. I want to make sure I'm telling the story in the correct order or the way that I want to. But I step away from that writing fairly early on before I get to the memorization or the urge to memorize. So once you get the brain dump out of yourself and you get sort of this idea of how you want to say things, move away from that. And I would actually recommend you create pictures. I know, This is what we call a visual map. If you haven't heard of a visual map before, it's very, very simple. It's basically taking imagery and using that as uh, a symbol or a way to remember what you're going to say. So let's say my first story in my presentation is about my first car. My first car was a 77 Bonneville. It was yellow. It was beautiful. It was actually like this huge boat of a car. And if I were to tell a story, let's say about my first car, and it was maybe the first thing that I'm going to be talking about, what I would do is draw an image of that car. It would be a terrible image because I'm not a great drawer, but that's not the point. The point is draw an image that represents your first point or your first story. Now, when you go to practice, you are actually practicing telling the story the way that you want to, but you're doing it based on this imagery. What you'll start to realize is that as you're practicing with that image, you'll present in multiple different ways. You'll use different types of words. It'll come out different each time. And that's actually a really good thing because now you've got multiple neural pathways to explain your story. So in the moment when you're presenting, you will have access to multiple different ways to share that. If you get off track from the way that you would have preferred to share it, at least you still have ways to communicate that story. You have worked through it in your mind. So in the future, as you prepare for your presentations, it doesn't take very long to create a visual map. And this is just image after image to represent the points you're talking about, the points you're trying to make. If you're using PowerPoint, you might use the PowerPoint slides as your imagery. I do recommend that as it will be helpful in triggering those thoughts for what you're going to share. But the visual imagery is what releases you from having to speak in a certain way and being tied to this idea that there's a right way to deliver this presentation. You have far more freedom in the delivery of your presentation than you ever realized. So I hope that you'll give this a try. And don't worry if it doesn't work right away. Just keep working with it, and I think you'll find that it's very freeing.